you have time.
I haven't just,
Sure.
Sign up sheet.
might take 2 minutes.
We are on YouTube, yes.
I'd like to call to order the City of Mayville Finance Committee of the whole meeting, October 7th, 2024 at 6 PM. And we have a roll call.
Alderperson Olson,
Here.
Alderperson Newman,
Present.
Alderperson Leibnow,
Here.
Alderperson Schmidt,
Here.
Alderperson Smith,
Here.
and Alderperson Baker is excused. We do have a quorum.
We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Number 3, approval of the minutes of September 30th, 2024, Finance of the Whole Committee meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Smith, first,
Second.
second Schmidt, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Number 4, citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on. Number 5, the overview of the 2025 city contracts agreements with the following. And the first one is the Mayville Chamber of Commerce. I'm gonna turn that over. Steph, are you gonna? Let
Sure,
us
these are
know.
the items that are in the general administration budget tonight, and then just wanted to bring it to your attention, we're working on getting agreements in place for the Mayville Chamber of Commerce. Main Street Mayville, we already received the request from Graceland Cemetery. I will go over that more detail in my budget. And then we are still looking for or not looking, but requested what is left of our Dodge County Humane Society budget or agreement for the upcoming budget year.
So no action or movement on the first 2?
No, I'll be bringing them to Common Council.
Okay. Number 6, discuss the possible action. 6A, the review of the proposed 2025 general administration budget. Back to you, right?
Okay.
Okay.
We're starting with the general administration, which would be this, the city council and the mayor's budget. There is in there the wage increase for the aldermen in that budget. That's already built in. The assessment of professional services is under the clerk. She reached out to them and that contract would remain the same. Correct, Annie?
Yes.
If I'm wrong. Okay, and then the animal control, that is the contract that with the Humane Society. And contributions, that is the contract or the request from Graceland Cemetery. Their original request was for $21,000, and last year their budget amount was $16,850. So I did reach out to them and see if we couldn't accomplish that in a two-year cycle to get to the $21,000, what the request is. That was approximately a 26% increase in the request. So I sat down with Carla and with Merlin, and they determined that it was appropriate or sufficient to use $19,500 for the 2025 budget, and then to look at it, possibly increasing it to their original request of $21,000 in the 2026 budget, then at that time. But I will be bringing that agreement to the common council. My budget then continues on to the general admin portion. You can see that there's changes in there. My wages are added into that budget, which you did not have last year. It was included with the comptroller, I believe, or clerk budget, in the clerk's budget last year. So we broke that out. And then we get to the Main Street and the Marsh Area Chamber. Them agreements are next in the budget. The attorney budget, the attorneys were projecting around 55,000 for next year. That includes the attorneys for the police department and all the other departments also. Was just budgeted in this budget to have oversight in the attorney fees. Also, the IT is the next budgeted item. I did put 10,000 in there, but I did have time today to just calculate out what was approximately spent this year with the phone installation for IT. Currently, we're at 27,000 for IT. And then last year I added up for 2023, it was 37,000. So I don't think 10,000 is appropriate to be putting in there. So I would possibly ask that we could maybe increase that to the 20,000. If one put that in the parking lot, I should have paid more attention to that when I was creating the budget here. Also, the IT portion is something that we are looking and getting quotes to see if we could possibly change or obtain a different vendor for this service that's being provided to the city. The insurance on vehicles and property, workers' comp, that I will be bringing to the October meeting, common council meeting to review the quotes that I received. I'm recommending that we go with the League of Wisconsin Municipality. It's for their insurance services, so that is who will be presenting at the common council for approval of the quote that they brought forward, which is the lowest quote that we received. That is the intent at this time. So that is the numbers that I used for in the budget was the ones that we received, the lowest ones. So, but it is not tying your hands. I mean, it's whoever you decide, but that's who I'm recommending because you will see what the services that they do offer besides just the insurance. Then everything else is pretty much status quo. As you can see, the telephone, we had to make sure we had actually a budget this year for the telephone, and a lot of them. I don't know why we didn't have a budget last year. And then supplies and utilities for the city hall and maintenance and upkeep, we have 5,000. So. Oh, and then with building inspection, that is for Kunkel Engineering. That this portion here is for the building inspector actually, for which is contracted through Kunkel. And the last one is the Historical Society, just a donation to them of $1,000.
Hey, can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman?
You can.
Why don't we approve this Naval Chamber, Main Street, Graceland, and Dodge Humane Society, and then we put it on council. We should have everything pretty much finalized by that.
Well, that's skipping back to the previous item, in other words. We're on to Stephanie's item now, but.
Right, but I think we should go back and we should approve them, because otherwise when are we gonna approve them?
Right, I agree, I was wondering that at the time.
I should have probably had you make a recommendation for approval.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
You can do it within my budget. I mean, I was presenting the costs here before I was just presenting the agreements that will be coming forward.
I think Stephanie's
Yes.
stuff should go in the parking lot, but, right, Mayor?
Well, not everything, but some of that stuff's gonna have to come
Yeah.
first.
Well, the only thing I'm requesting is $10,000 more for the IT.
Right? What's your comfortable with that number?
10,000 or
Yeah.
20? I'm comfortable with the 20.
Okay,
We'll have to make do.
So I don't think we have to really wait for anything, as you outlined it, right? We can put it all subject to the final budget meeting. Is
right,
that right? What you think, Mayor?
yes,
Okay with you, Ken?
That's okay.
Well, then I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
what's the motion?
Motion is to accept the items as outlined, subject to change when they are at the council,
That's for the administration budget?
Well, with the additional,
with the contracts too.
but she's asking for an additional amount that wasn't in the budget.
Well, yeah, 10,000, with the additional 10,000.
For IT.
So that was a first, Mr. Smith, and second, Olson?
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now you wanna go back?
I'm gonna go back to item 5 and make a motion to move that on to council. The 4 items, the Mayville Chamber of Commerce, the Main Street Mayville Graceland Cemetery, and Dodge County Humane Society, the contracts and agreements, so they're ready and available when they're at council. We do both.
You made that motion?
Yeah,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, go ahead.
That is, they are still subject to change at that time.
Right.
Correct.
I think the only one we're really waiting for though was, Dodge Humane Society, right?
That's what, yeah, that was said.
Okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 6B, review of proposed 2025 clerks and election budget. Anastasia.
That's me. Mine probably looks really, really good because we did a lot of reorganization. And a lot of it went into the general administration budget. So as you've heard other departments discuss, we've done reorganization, combining of line items, just to assist with simplifying our operations and being more efficient. For me, we are anticipating to see increased revenues in other permits, which is line item 10-44900-04-000-000. With a comprehensive review we recently did of the fee schedule and just having more oversight on what is coming in and ensuring things are being paid, we expect an upward trend in that area. Then we do have training. I am still going to Clerks Institute, so that number is higher than in previous years. It'll be my 3rd year. Then it also has conference in there for myself and Dawn. We'd like to get her cross-trained and get her some additional education as well. As far as elections, it will only be a 2-year election year, so it is much lower than the 2024 budget. We do have the increase for the election workers in there. The only adjustment I would request, it's not a change in numbers, but where it is put. When this capital improvement plan originally came through, my request was for a cart and some additional voting booths for election. Since these are comparatively low cost, compared to the other items that traditionally make a CIP plan, it was rolled into my budget. So it is currently placed under 10-514-2004-351-000 for clerk, building maintenance and equipment. I would like that amount, the $1,835, moved into the elections equipment item because these items will be used exclusively for elections.
I see no problem with any of that. I'll move to send that on to council.
Second.
Go ahead.
Second.
Sorry.
as stated by the clerk.
As stated by the clerk, yes.
Thank you.
Here's the
Any
first by
discussion?
discussion. Were you done, by the way?
I am,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. So, got a motion to move. First by Smith, second by Schmidt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not to move on to council. Andy, we don't have to take a roll on any of that.
I
It
think
just
we're
goes
going
right
to
up.
recommend to council.
6C, review of proposed 2025 treasurer's budget.
Mine is pretty simple. Mainly, on there I have subscriptions and training on there, for my municipal treasurers association. My postage, I've got that on there for tax bills. Let's see here, I'm taking a look. We got $800 on there for supplies. For the contract and professional services, that's where a lot of the Baker Tilly comes out of, and the assistance that we're getting from Cameron Sawyer. We expect that to go down a lot more and more each month. I think more importantly, I would like more of the help for the end of year, journal entries, but that's still here in 2024. The reason it's so high right now is there were sickage bills in there, or if we had some other people assisting with City Hall, their contracted services went under this comptroller budget as well. So that's why it's so high, because there's still like bills from the beginning of this year. So that's why that budget level looks higher than it typically would be in the future.
So we're talking comptroller contract
Did services.
services.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We had with Sickage, we had an amount not to exceed.
And D&E,
And
7,500.
did we go over that amount by any chance? There's still bills coming in?
Oh, there are not any more bills coming in for them. There was just a few lingering from 2023. There's 2 of them in there. But I would have to see how much we spent with them, because I believe there are 2 different types of contracts with them. So, I could always find the whole total that we,
Okay, thank you.
so it's pretty much my budget, really not much to it.
Any motions to move the treasurer's budget onto council?
I'll move.
Mr. Schmidt,
Second.
Mr. Levin? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. We're on to 6D, review of proposed 2025 utilities budget. Courtney?
Come on down.
There is a memo included at the end of that packet that pretty much details anything we have going on, which is a lot. We have a lot going on right now, and the costs are set to fluctuate significantly depending on the timing of the new infrastructure that we're building, which we should see at some point next year. So we're pretty conservative on the revenues for this one, hopefully depending on that timing. And there's a 2-page memo in there. Went through that, but I can go line by line if you guys like on the memo, or if you have any questions, we can do it that way.
Let's see, I did have a couple of questions. With the fire protection, is it really gone up that much?
Yeah, fire protection was one in the PSC that had gone up significantly, that we were pretty underfunded in their evaluation. 'Cause there's public and private on there.
Why don't you just explain a little bit what that fire protection does? And how do you get your revenue?
Sure, fire protection is revenues that we use to maintain and create infrastructure to protect from fires, essentially. It's a PSC mandated line item that we put on there. It's based on meter sizing, industry, things like that. And sometimes, the private would be things that are required, like at the library with the sizing of the metering and things that have gone in there.
Any discussion at all on the budget for the utilities?
Well, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
We only did one thing, that was the fire protection. Did you have any other questions, Kim? Did that answer your question?
You can wait, I gotta,
You okay?
go ahead with yours.
Okay, I have a question about the overall budget as it pertains to wages.
Okay.
I don't know how that's kind of cloudy. Ordinarily, the mayor, or the budget presented to the council by the mayor is the overriding issue when it comes to wages for employees. That's for consistency and for a whole lot of reasons, actually. And it seems like for one reason or another, you guys either skipped past it, you didn't have the information at the time, or you ignored the mayor's budget.
Are you
And,
talking for regular wages there?
Pardon me?
For regular wages?
Regular and your increase.
So what we've been doing the last couple of years, our operators are held to, there's 11 tests. We have a scale that went through a few years ago. There's 11 operator tests for licensure that they take, as well as a CDL. So what we've done the past few years is the people that have all of their requirements taken get a higher percentage than those who have room to grow and are at their own merit in receiving. So the total increase in wages came to 2.93%.
Well, that's outside of the parameters that the mayor had in his budget. You didn't make any presentation to the council to waive that.
Was
I don't know how, it would have been helpful had you invited, I personally am very disappointed. We have a city administrator, statutory and elected by the council, who's elected by the people. And that city administrator was not invited or was kept out of your closed session. And it would have been helpful had she been there to participate. I'm very disappointed about that.
Isn't the admin supposed to, I mean, she's the main hub of this city, she should be at every meeting, so.
She was at the meeting, it was just not in the closed session. I mean, that's up to her commission, I guess, but
Okay, I'm just trying to
yeah,
understand.
she's at every meeting.
All right.
So let me ask, was that 2.93%, was that on top of the 3% raise that I told and stuff to tell the department head?
No, that is the total increase, so it's under the 3% that was.
Right.
But what you proposed in your budget is a 4% increase, isn't it?
No.
3.9?
And
Well, I guess you'd have to go by what all these little spiffs add up to if you get this license or that training.
Right,
But the city employees get a 3% increase on the proposed mayor's budget.
yes.
I would like to hold the water employees' increases to that.
And
Now,
then
if
it
there's
is
some
under
reason
that
to go
3%.
beyond that, pardon me,
It is under that 3% actually that was proposed as a total.
you just said it was 3.9.
No, I said it was 2.9,
Okay,
2.93.
so you've raised it 2.9, okay.
Yeah, it's
Then we
under,
get to your increase, you requested 10% according to the minutes, and then they put it down to 8, and then reduce it again to 7 in 2 stages, 4 and
It
then
was-
3 later.
it was four for now and potentially later. When wages were adjusted a few years ago, I was never included in that a few years back. The city as a whole went up, we were not communicated with on the percentage, so when it was higher for the city as a whole, we were significantly lower. Our operators were adjusted and I never was.
Well, it would have been helpful had our city administrator been involved in the meeting, so she can understand these things. The council doesn't have any of this information.
Okay, you're welcome to attend up to the discretion of the commission.
Okay, first of all, I think it's very important Stephanie is at all the meetings, all of them. Do you recall what year that was that you were skipped over?
22, you think everybody was adjusted?
All right.
Well, I've got the salary schedule for all key people in the city, and with your proposed raises, that would put you ahead of our public works director and some others. And I think all of that should be reviewable by the council. So I was on the water department for 8 years, and I'll tell you what, if we keep having this tension between the council and the water department, I'm going to put on the agenda that we increase the number of aldermen on the water department, or make the water department a part of the council like it is in Juneau, because you are not a kingdom with a moat around you. You have to answer to the public.
This was in the past where it was not communicated with. In the past, none of those numbers in 2022 were communicated with us from this side as well. So it's not, I think it's coming together, but in the past, it was not communicated with us. And we are coming together on that now with the help of Stephanie.
All right.
Recall, we weren't being communicated with either.
I know I was gone for a year and a half because
Well-
nobody was talking to anybody.
The council at the time, we weren't told anything, at least the majority of us weren't. So we need to fix all of this and get more transparent. That's why it's very important that I need to know that year, because I was left in the dark for a couple of years on purpose.
Yeah.
So,
Why don't we just put that portion of their budget on the parking lot, and we can, it's easy enough to go back and take a look.
then I'll make that motion, put it in the parking lot.
Just the whole thing, or just that?
Well, actually, we haven't gone through the whole thing.
Right.
So you just that for now.
Right? Keep going.
And we've got more here to go if anybody has any more questions pertaining to the water department.
Is there a second to the motion to put the water department's wages in the parking lot?
You need a second? I made the motion. I just need a second.
I'll second.
Just for the parking lot, for the wages?
For
Not
now,
the whole budget.
We're still discussing. the
Yeah,
rest of
we're
it.
still, okay.
because we're still going through this.
Just want to get it right. Olson for the first, and then Smith for the second,
Thank you.
and all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. So wages aren't the parking lot right now. Any other questions, any other discussion? Anything pertaining to the waste, water, or utilities budget?
Okay, yes. All right, Courtney. Tell me a little bit about the hydrant repairs.
Yeah.
Were they in poor shape?
Yeah, there's plenty of them in terrible shape. We have
Really?
one certain brand that is constantly breaking. The rod won't set. We usually have to stick our arm on there to hold them back together. We don't purchase that brand anymore, but there's plenty out there that are
They're
in failing condition. Yeah.
Continuously?
Yeah.
Feeling, okay, I just wanted to know, but we are gonna get a handle on it eventually.
Well, short of, what we do is short of them breaking on us unexpectedly, we wait till the end of the year when we can get Town and Country that's not busy and fix the norms with whatever we have left in, that wasn't done on an emergency basis.
Was some of that taken out of the fire protection budget?
Yeah, as a whole, yeah.
We used to have spares in the water garage. Are those the old defunct ones, or?
We've used and we've carted out what we can of those, so we had 2 left and now we're down to none. But yes, most of those were eddy hydrants that didn't do so well for us.
I have no more questions for Courtney. Anybody else?
Gentlemen?
Thank you, Courtney.
So we're gonna take a second, I give the motion to move the utilities budget on to council.
I'll second.
I need it first.
Okay, I'll make the first.
Okay. And leave it on for a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on, 2025 proposed library budget. Grant.
You all have a copy of the budget, I assume. Down to 12 lines. Really not that complicated. The biggest change is we moved from contracted services up to wages. We hired internally the maintenance and the cleaning services. So that really is a wash. We were asked to reduce our budget by 8%, which we moved down. Any questions that I may be able to answer?
Everything going good over there?
Yes, our new director, Aaron's been doing a great job as interim director. Our new director, Leslie Schultz, will be starting the 24th of October.
I noticed that you resolved the issue with the book budget, the 20,000 that went out, and now you got 5,000 going back in or something like that. Is that gonna do it for us over there?
We'll have to supplement that some other ways. But
We used to get donations and so forth. Are we
yes,
actively pursuing that again, or? The one person that did most of the donations has expressed the end to their voluntary support, but I hope we look for some other place to help support the books and the reading material.
Are we anticipating 75,000 for the county yet?
75,000 for the county. So we'll have room in our budget to make it work.
I believe the library needs books, unlike some people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm for you there.
All right. I'll make a motion to move it on to the council for approval.
Second.
Mr. Stewart. For first, second by Schmidt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Do you need me for the council meeting as well?
Probably not.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Grant.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
guys again.
We move on to 6F, Frank, review of the deferred budget items. And the budget line item was 10-52, 200-22-101-000, fire department wages.
Yeah, definitely.
Stop.
Which one are we on? I'm sorry.
Fire wages.
Oh, yes. What he is requesting is an additional $10,000 in funds. I think Nicole had looked into it. And it was just double his wages and not taking into account that there's more of a wage that is paid out in the fall of the year. So an additional $10,000 to his budget would be sufficient for next year.
So it's something you worked out, it makes sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah, the chief was right.
Okay,
So
all right.
we looked into it, and then, yeah, it is $10,000.
So it was your objection, Mayor, at first, but you've resolved that, right?
I don't think that was my objection. I think that,
Or your confusion.
I think that the committee decided they were gonna put that in the parking lot, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, he had brought it to our attention. When I reviewed the budget with Chief, he's like, I'm not sure why we've reduced it more than what it was actually last year.
Correct.
And so when we looked into it, yeah, we just more or less 6 months a year, we doubled it, not realizing that.
Okay.
his wages are paid out in the fall of the year.
Sorry, Mayor, I thought,
Sorry, Bob.
it's okay.
Feisty.
I'm, you know, we,
I'm used
it's
to.
not like this
taking about
budget
most of
isn't
the
a
stuff.
challenge. In the year and a half I've been gone, seems like we've developed another 240,000 in deficits, and I hope we can, not to mention all the trouble we're in with filing tax forms on time and every other
I
darn
counted
thing.
270, but 240 is close.
But what's a
I said 270 I counted, but.
270? Well, that's
240 is
still a
close.
lot. I mean, it's like, almost like we're starting over. So anyway, that's why I'm a little bit anxious about what we just approved here. I don't wanna, if we're going in the hole again, I wanna develop some procedures so we don't do it again.
Right, we're getting things
Okay,
under control.
good. Well, I'm glad you're back to help with that.
Yeah, great. Me too.
You got it. So we have to make a motion to take the extra $10,000.
I'll make the motion to resolve that inaccurate, or whatever it is with the fire department pay.
And then I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Move on to 6G, special requests from department heads pertaining to the 2025 budget.
There is a special request that came to me from the police department after you did his budget. And there was an oversight on his click it or ticket grant, and he would like to add the revenue along in with the expenses. So if you want to have Chief Tellner explain what had happened there.
Tell us what the name of the grant again, I didn't catch it.
Click it or
Donald
ticket.
Driver,
So
double D.
the reason this is coming in late is these grants weren't available the past couple of years because of COVID. So I've never budgeted these, and I assumed that this would be starting next year or into the next year of October, but it's actually starting this year. And what it is, it's a click it or ticket grant. There's an OWI seed enforcement grant, as well as a seatbelt grant. They're running them all concurrent. So it comes out to 4 different shifts a month of 4-hour blocks. We can have up to 4 officers work the 4-hour blocks. It's overtime, they would get paid. And it is reimbursed to the city with prevailing wage, meaning that all the benefits and that they would get for those 4 hours would also be paid back or whatever. So it's fully reimbursed by the state. And if we worked every shift from October 17th of this year to October of next year, the total amount that could be paid out is $28,000. And then we would be reimbursed $28,000 in October of next year for all the costs. I do not believe that with our current schedule and staff that we could work that many hours, but it's possible that if the officers decided to do it, they could. So as far as budgeting it, I think it's probably more appropriate to budget $14,000, half of it, $14,000 in grant overtime or grant pay, I guess is what it would be called. And then we have a line item for grant reimbursement. So also put a revenue of $14,000 as well. And I'm assuming that's the best way to budget that. I can tell you that I look back, this has not been budgeted correctly in the past before this was done, which is a common theme this year. So what the best practice is, how to do this, I don't necessarily know. I think maybe it's something we need to look a little further into. But what I'm asking for tonight is, after going over it and over what the timeline would be $14,000 added to a separate line item for overtime or grant pay, and also $14,000 added for grant revenue.
So this becomes a neutral.
Exactly. But what makes it difficult is part of that would come out this year. So part of that payout would come this year. So we'd almost have to do a budget amendment for this year's budget. Or I don't know what the appropriate way to do that is. And then the rest of it would come out next year because it goes from October to October is what the grant goes to. So again, I don't know what the right way to do that is, But this is my first time coming across this because it hasn't been available because of COVID. So that's what I'm bringing forward. I'd like to do the grant. I'd like to take the money. I'd like to have the officers on patrol on the state's dime. They put some extra focus on OWIs and seatbelt speed. And I'll give you just an example of this month, the dates and what it means and what the officers will be doing. And we'll make it known the dates we're doing it. It's not like we're trying to hide it. So October 17th is a seatbelt grant. It's from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. October 25th is a speed grant, which is from 5 a.m. in the morning till 9 a.m. So it would be early traffic. October 26th is OWI enforcement grant, which would be from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. And October 31st would be a seatbelt grant that would go 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So it gives you an example when the officers will be on the street focusing on these certain things. Obviously, they're available if we have other emergency calls or other instances where they are needed. It's not like they can't go take care of other things if they come up. It allows us to put more officers on the street at some key times and focus on some things that sometimes because of our workload, we don't get to focus on. So that's what I'm looking for with the grant. Again, it's subject to the officers that will sign up for it and that. And it's open for reimbursement for the entire department, which includes myself and the lieutenant as well. So that's what I'm looking for.
I have no problem. I have a couple questions, so.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
So do I.
Good. This is not like the old speed trap thing. I mean, are you allowed to stop people just because you notice that maybe they don't have a seatbelt, or does that have to be if they're stopped for some other reason and they don't have a seatbelt?
Well, back in the seatbelt law has changed, so it can be a primary enforcement.
So in other words, if you are sitting off the side of the road, watching for people without their seatbelt, they can be stopped and given a $15 citation.
They can, yeah, but I'll also want you to note that the seatbelt grant, the times for this is from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
So in other words, don't
So
break
it's
the
dark.
law between those times.
Right, well, it's dark, but if you get stopped and you're not wearing your seatbelt for something else, you could get a seatbelt ticket.
I'm not a big fan of encouraging speed traps and unnecessary stops, but, you know, you guys have enough trouble the way it is, stopping people, trying to figure out who the heck they are when you stop them.
I know a place you can check.
The OWI is probably a better idea, but
Yeah.
otherwise I have no problem with it as long as,
These are the grants, and I'd like to see at least one officer signed up for each of these. It could be up to 4, it can be reimbursed up to 4. There's lots of money from the state that can be reimbursed because it hasn't been done in the past couple of years. So that's where I'm.
but he's restricted to that, for those hours to doing that. He can't be, unless it's emergency, he can't be out for regular patrol.
Yeah, it would be regular patrol. If you see something else, they'd be expected to take care of it just as it's a regular
Okay.
shift. Absolutely.
Then I have no trouble with it.
It's not special enforcement, one squad on seatbelt duty for 4
But
hours.
on the other thing that you asked about, I think Stephanie can check into it, or Nicole maybe, but we have in the past allowed approval of things like this where they attend to 2 budgets. In other words, they're part of this year and part of next year, where you go into the minus this year and then it's all made up for next year out of the,
Sure.
I mean, I don't think we necessarily have to adjust last year's budget for this, do we? Stephanie or Nicole?
Well, I don't believe that we would need to do that.
You could, in other words, the whole thing could apply to next year and those hours could be
Now, what'll happen at the end of the year, we'll look at his budget as a whole. If he's over, he'll have to amend that budget this
okay,
year.
so we don't have to
If
adjust.
you had money left over, you could do a carry forward,
Right, that's
but
what,
not when you have a deficit.
okay.
Then we can't do it, we can't
But
carry.
at the end of the year, we'd have to do a budget amendment to fix
Correct.
the
But
part he
we
went over.
don't line item budget, so if his budget as a whole is not over, he
Yeah.
wouldn't have to amend it, so.
Okay. So we could approve the
Yeah,
grant situation and have it applied.
And just so it's clear, the reimbursement comes in October for the whole grant for this year and next year. The reimbursement comes in October of next year
Okay,
for the entire grant. So anything we would use this year or spend this year, we would not receive reimbursement for until October of next year.
And the one thing that we're gonna make sure is that that goes into the grant overtime, not into a overtime budgeted item, that it becomes a reoccurring event without the grant money being there to offset that.
So you guys don't have any problem with it being attended, left the way it is until the end of the year?
Correct.
Okay, and adjusted then, so.
We just had those two line items, grant pay and grant revenue.
Yeah, we have grant revenue already as a line item.
Yeah, we have intergovernmental grant, state grant.
So is there a motion on it? Did we make?
Not yet, not yet.
Nicole just has to really tune in on that to make sure.
Correct.
I will make that motion then.
Motion
Not done yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait 1 minute. How do you track that time then? I mean, how do you keep that separate from?
So we're required to fill out a daily log. Each officer is required to fill out their time and stops. And part of the requirement of the grant is to have so many contacts within an hour.
Yeah.
And I want to make it clear to the public in that is, we're doing this for a public safety purpose. I'm not out there expecting a bunch of numbers with this.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
We're not going to do traffic with this.
Awareness.
Any different than how we currently do traffic is where, you know, we take care of things when they come up, but we're not stopping 15 speeders a day because we want to make sure we get our revenues. That's not the purpose of this at all.
Or in other words, more warnings about seatbelts than anything else.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And officers can use their discretion.
All right,
And they do that now, and I believe they do it well.
I know they do.
Yeah.
That's
And it's state money.
But there have been departments in our area that haven't done that, as you know.
Right, and I understand that's very unpopular. We're not gonna be labeled that.
I just, all I want to know is how you track it.
Yeah, so
And then-
there's a set way that it has to be tracked
Yeah.
and documented to the state, and they'll obviously,
And fill that
we'll
in.
have that on file.
I can make a paper for it as well.
And we'll have that separate from our, you know,
Right.
regular shift.
You know, that gets dirty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that you don't want to get that. And you were asking how you budget that, you know. So now you know, you could even budget it for next year if you wanted to go higher, like you said, 14, you know.
Right.
You get 28, you can possible max is 28, then you just go through October, November, December, and go, here's what we did.
Yeah, and I think it's more responsible to do it this way, to budget for half.
Right.
And then if we get into June or July next year and we realize that we're getting close to that.
Right.
Then we could look at amending next year's. And then we get the reimbursement next year right away then too. So I think that makes the most sense.
Absolutely.
I got a question.
Yes.
Hey, so on these grants, typically in the past, we always had grants and the police come forward for approval before we apply. Do we even get this grant again, or?
Well, this grant actually is done through the county. The sheriff's department organizes the grant, applies for the grant, and receives it. It takes care of scheduling and getting the set for it, and then they invite the other agencies to be involved with it.
So the county applied for it?
Exactly, yeah. So that's how it works. And a lot of counties do it that way, where they'll have one lead agency with this particular grant, just because of how much it involves to put it
You
together.
understand why I asked the question?
I do.
Because most of these people don't know, Bob might know. I think, Mike, you're a part of that. When, years ago, we applied for a grant. It was a 5-year grant. And the government paid for the first 3 years of someone's salary, 2 years of salary, and we had to eat the last 3.
Right, and we couldn't get out of it.
And we couldn't get out of it,
Right.
and then we end up having to let these officers go because we didn't have it in the budget.
Right.
So that's the reason that I asked the question about grants coming forward to the council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and one more, and I'm being a teetotaler, as you know, I don't drink an ounce of anything. Probably because I learned my lesson a long time ago.
Not even water?
No, well, just something else about water. But anyway, this is all, except for, not only speed traps, but these grants were in trouble at one time because our neighbors to the west and the far west used to stage officers outside of taverns at closing time. And this isn't part of, I mean, are we gonna encourage that kind of, are these hours, do they include that for the OWI part?
And my officers don't
You
do that.
remember when they were doing that around the area?
I do.
Okay.
Yep, I do understand what you're saying, and I can tell you that the traffic stops that the officers have made this year, last year, and the year before, that I've reviewed, they're not sitting and waiting and doing any of that type of thing, no.
But you do accept calls from bartenders who say, this guy should probably get a ride home. Why don't you come and check on him?
Absolutely.
Good for you. God bless you.
Tiny Tim.
We take care of our local yokels, right?
So special requests, is there any more special requests then, Stephanie?
I do not have any more.
Okay, so we had discussion, thank you, Ryan. Any more questions for Ryan at all, or? So we're gonna do that, I'm gonna make a motion that we do take that special request in and take those 2 line items for the police department, $14,000 grant pay as a line item, and $14,000 grant revenue as a line item for money from the state for clicker ticket, OWI enforcement, and speed enforcement. So I make that motion.
You made the motion?
I made the motion.
Second.
Second for leaving all here. Sorry.
That's all right.
All in
As
favor?
long as it gets second.
No, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That's passed. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So no other special requests for 6G? And then 6H, capital improvement plan projects for inclusion in the 2025 budget.
So I just wanted to bring the capital improvement plan, which is a plan, and how this plan now goes into your budget and how it is funded. So I wanted to just have an overview of that, your current projects for 2025, that's all I'm looking at. And we have the project costs and exclude the water and wastewater and the tag center. They are in their budget by themselves. And then the funding sources are either levy or we're funding them by debt. So the levy we're contributing towards your capital improvement is $393,332. And then the rest would be financed by debt, which would be approximately $2.3 million. So Nicole went ahead and created your capital improvements budget, which is the front page of the CIP. So total taxes, that was your levy portion that I mentioned, that's coming into the capital improvements budget. And then the bond proceeds for 2025, and you'll do a 2-year borrowing if that's what the council so chooses, that's the way we documented it up. And then there'd be a deferred revenue for the 2026 borrowing of $500,000. And then your total financing for these projects would be the 1.9 million in 2025. And your projects are laid out below for 2025 according to the departments and the project costs.
I have a Ryan question.
And I just want, okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And also the projects that affect your TID, it would be TID number 7, that's on the second, and that's, you have a budget for TID 7. And so that shows also the bond proceeds coming in to purchase the projects that you're going to be doing in the TID number 7 next year for 2025. Okay. Sorry, Kim, I interrupted.
No, I didn't know you were done. I have a question, Ryan. So we got the sirens, 105. What I don't understand is the squad SUV and uplifting for 70,000. I thought we just got a new vehicle, that's why.
Yeah, so we're on a cycle right now to replace, buy a new squad car every year and then sell a new squad car, sell a squad car every year. And the cycle's on a 5-year cycle with 5 cars. And we started that back in 2020 where we bought 2 of them.
27
And with mileage and the wear and tear after the 5 years, that vehicle is then cycled through and the new one is bought. And it does a couple of things. It allows us to be operating squad cars that are up to date and that are with the most recent safety and everything in them. And it also allows after that 5 years where that vehicle is actually worth something yet for trading when we do or when we sell it. And it also reduces our maintenance costs because it's the first couple of years that vehicle's in warranty for one. And it's only 5 years old, 6 years old at the time that it's been recycled through. So it makes the most sense as far as cost wise and keeping up to date with equipment for the officers operating safety. And the number of cars we use with the number of officers we have, each officer is partnered with another officer in a squad, and they cycle that squad so it works either a day shift or a second shift, 12 total hours. And for each shift, and it works out the best for wear and tear and everything. We actually kind of studied how we had to do it in the past and how we do it now. And it just makes the most sense, cost-wise and safety-wise.
So we're still on that one, an additional squad every year and retire one every year? Okay, that-
Next year, we're looking at getting rid of 2 cars, which are 2 older, one's a 15 and one's a 16.
How did that happen if we were replacing them every year? What
Well, we
happened?
haven't been doing that.
Oh,
We haven't done that. So we started in 21 and we bought 2 to make up for not buying a couple of the prior years. And then that's how the cycle started.
okay. Because I thought we had resolved this, but,
No, we're just finally at the tail end of it, and we'll actually start seeing the real benefit as we buy one in 20.
it made sense when we started it, and I'm wondering how we got it. So yes, that's a good question.
And then my second question, the office furniture, which office furniture is getting replaced?
Well, we're gonna replace the furniture in my office, which is just a desk. The desk I have is about 30 years old. And I think it was a hand-me-down 30 years ago. And the lieutenant as well, he's in the same boat, his might be older than mine. And then just replace some chairs and just some general things that we have.
How is that other furniture holding up from a little over 8 years ago?
Yeah, so that was the squad room, and we did redid the cubicles, and that's been great. And it's been a great addition, that changing that room with the central table where we have our briefings every day, and we all eat lunch together every day, whoever's there, it's worked out really nice.
Right, because that's, what you're doing here has nothing to do with what happened 8 years ago.
No, that was for the main squad room, for the patrol officers, this is for the actual
All right.
offices.
Are we still, Stephanie and Nicole, are we still on the idea that we are going to, I mean, this was way back when Rob Belk, the Mayor Belk, and I started, we put us on a 5-year capital projects thing to help us get out of our $2.4 million deficit, and it worked. But we had the idea that every other year we would do borrowing, and then for some reason we skipped it last year.
Well, yes, so this was gonna put us back on track with the.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking, are we getting back on track with
This
the
is
original
25
concept?
and 26.
Yeah,
So this
okay,
is 2 years above.
Right.
We can't do it next year because we just got way too much stuff we gotta
Right.
get done next year.
so hopefully this will keep us on board with our
Yeah, the next
expenditures
The next
limits too?
scheduled borrowing should be in 2027
Okay,
for that budget cycle.
all right. And that was our original plan, was to keep things and move things up in the capital projects so that every 2 years we had enough to borrow. We went over the million or $1.2 million or whatever it was, and then we would have Ayers do some bonding.
1.2 million seems to be the number, because if it's under 1.2 million, it doesn't
Doesn't
pay
pay
to
to borrow.
borrow, because we paid too much for the bonding company to bond out the money.
Well, we got off of that after we so carefully put ourselves on it, so now you're saying this is remedying that again now?
Yes, we'll be back to,
Okay. I hope everybody understands what I was talking about.
Well, in the capital improvement budget on the front page. So we'll borrow for 2 years. 2025, we plan on using 1.1 million of that, and $5.5 million of that will go to 2026 instead of borrowing for
And then we'll be
2026.
on every 2
Every
years.
other
we
year.
will read.
Mhm.
But every year, we still move things forward, and those
Correct.
things that can be paid for out of the regular budget, regular funds, that's how we do
Right.
those things.
and out of that 1.5 million, we're gonna borrow 2.4, because the rest of it's gonna be charged towards TIF 7, to finish off TIF 7.
And all your roads are in here that you wanted done?
Yep, along with excavation too, to move the dirt, and what else? Storm,
River Knoll.
River Knoll.
Okay,
Yeah, $900,000 we're gonna budget towards roads, so hopefully we can get about 3 miles of roads done, and help put us where we need to be.
good. I'm glad to see we're getting back on track. Thanks for that. Is
Any other
that the last
discussion?
item, capital project?
That was it. I need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve or send to the council the capital projects, capital borrowing schedule for the next, 2 years, I guess.
25 and 26.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item, number 7, adjournment.
So move.
Schmidt.
It's always on top.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. And leaving out, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6:59. Thank you.
Now we're gonna have to go over there next week.